We're all set. Aren't they cool?
There you go.
All right, let's call our meeting to order. It is Wednesday, February 25th at 7:01. Roll call, please.
Sine Hubbard.
Here.
Dave Allgood. Laura Goding.
Here.
Chrissy Richardson.
Here.
Dan Cheek.
Here.
Mark Vance.
Here.
David Howe. Ian Steer.
I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There is no phone participation this evening. Do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Motion by Mark,
Second.
second by Sine. All in favor? Any opposed? No. Tonight's agenda is approved. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve Board of Trustee meeting minutes from January 28th, 2026?
Move to approve minutes from January 28th, 26.
Motion by Dan,
Second.
second by Mark. Any questions or concerns? Barring none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, meeting minutes from January 28th, 2026 passes. Any public comment? Okay.
No, she's returned in.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Collector Miller and her report? Barring none, we'll move on. Any questions for Ion and his test report? Go ahead, Mr. Allgood.
How are the recently approved projects coming along?
Good. I mean, I don't know, I know as far as the SCADA.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, everything's plugging away. They're working on programming still. I would say 90% of the parts have been received. But I know they're working on programming. They actually, I did have a meeting with him today that we had a bunch of incidental like stuff in the current SCADA. Tags were labeled different than what they're tagged on the facility and the plans, so we're just making sure all that stuff lines up. So when you walk around the plant, it's gonna look the same as on SCADA right now.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ian. Any questions for Director Howe?
We're crossing the finish line on the old Public Works, or no, Village Hall.
They have the first 2 coats of primer on the ceiling walls, so tomorrow plan is to be painting the ceiling white, painting the trim doors white, and then we'll be into the actual walls, and then hopefully next week we're doing flooring and installing doors and installing baseboards.
Okay.
Definitely progress, almost there.
Yeah, it looks phenomenal. The guys have done a tremendous job over there. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, David. Any questions or comments on Chris's report, engineering report? Okay. No questions. Any questions on the treasury report? Most important thing is we're running ahead. That's the good thing. So there's a few, like I prefaced in the email that I sent out, there'll be some other moving some things around in terms of we're waiting on some numbers to go back and paste them out in the general ledger and some things of that nature. We do debt service one time a year, which hasn't been done, so, but otherwise, any other questions? Okay, moving on. Motion to discuss and approve ordinance 2026-07, an ordinance amending Title I Administration, Chapter 9 miscellaneous provisions of the Code of Ordinances for the Village of Poplar Grove.
Motion to discuss, approve ordinance 2026-07.
Motion by Mark,
Second.
second by Dan. Laura, would you take this one, please?
Yes. So this ordinance just adds to the code a section about the Freedom of Information Act fees that can be charged to requesters. This is very statutory language, very close to verbatim what's in the statute, because we are only authorized to charge what the statute allows. So this just puts into your code what you are allowed to charge. I can answer any questions if you have them.
I think it was all figured out the last time we discussed it. It was just putting ink to paper.
Yeah, I mean, I think internally it would be nice to have a table or something, so that's just a little easier to figure out 100%, but
Sure.
other than that.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Mark Vance,
Yes.
Dan Cheek,
Yes.
Dave Allgood, Sine Hubbard.
Yes.
Ordinance 2026-07 passes. Motion to discuss and approve Resolution 2026-09, a resolution of the Village of Poplar Grove, Illinois, approving the authorizing the village president to execute an agreement with B&F Construction Code Services, Inc. as building, electrical, and plumbing inspectors, and appointing B&F Construction Code Service, Inc. as code enforcement officer and village building inspector.
Move to discuss approve resolution 2026-09.
Motion by Dan,
Second.
second by Mark. All right. So what you have here is obviously the resolution. In the packets of information, there was two things that were determined in one clause, which was the term, which goes right now until the end of my term, unless we execute the 90-day cancellation clause or the termination clause.
I have a question about that. Last time we talked about this agreement, it was a 2-year agreement.
Yeah, so it was they've actually never, to be clarified, they've never actually put in a 1 year, 2 year, whatever. It's always for the term. And even the last one before that was for the term of the last sitting president. So
I'm just saying the last time we discussed it.
right, you're right. So that's true. But either way, I don't know that it 100%, unless the board wants to go back and amend it, which is fine.
It doesn't matter to me. I
You know,
think
there's
that
a
the
90
part in
there's a
there-
90-day termination clause, which I think is more important in this particular case, such that we decide to do something else.
That is what I wanted, so that's good.
So, any other questions or concerns? Okay, roll call.
Did I read in here that there was a fee schedule? I didn't see it attached here.
Yeah, there was a fee schedule that was presented in the original packet that was sent out. This is the updated language for the actual contract, but the fee schedule was the last packet. Yeah.
So it should be sitting there somewhere. Your last, yeah.
Any other questions? Barring none, roll call.
Dan Cheek,
Yes.
Sine Hubbard,
Yes.
Mark Vance,
Yes.
Dave Allgood.
No.
Resolution 2026-09 passes. No?
No, you have to vote.
I have to vote? Yes. Why do I, in that case? Oh, because it's a minimum, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm so used to when we're all here. Okay. Motion to discuss approved check disbursement for payment scheduled to be paid February 26, 2026 in the amount of $46,070.76 in AP checks, $30,081.52 in EFTs, estimated payroll of $21,052.08 for a total of $97,204.36.
Move to approve total disbursements of $97,204.36.
Motion by Dave.
Second.
Ooh, close. I'm gonna give it a second to Snee. Any questions? Sure. All right, roll call.
Dave Allgood,
Yes.
Sine Hubbard,
Yes.
Mark Vance,
Yes.
Dan Cheek.
Yes.
All right, check disbursement in the total of $97,204.36 passes. Motion to discuss and approve an event liquor license for North Boone District 3 Firemen's Association for the event dates of March 29th, 2026, August 1st, 2026, January 10th of 2027, and March 21st, 2027, and to consider waiving the applicable license fees. That's hard to say.
Move to discuss and approve.
Motion by Dave,
Second.
second by Dan. All right. So the Firemen's Association is looking to have several events this year. What you see before you is their application. I do have did have them send over today, so I apologize it's not in your packets, but their 501c4 paperwork. But you do have the request letter that was sent via email in reference to waiving the fees. So typically a Class C as marked as $100 per event.
How many events was it in total again?
4, which is the maximum that you can have per the ordinance time frame
Yeah.
for an event license.
And then I thought I read somewhere that they'd been waived. I don't recall this coming before me last.
So the ordinance does specify that they can request to have their fees waived because
Yeah,
they're-
I understood. I was just trying to think. I don't remember this ever coming before me before being.
No,
being
it's
on
been a while since they've had alcohol at one of their
It
events.
was last term. And was it common practice to waive the fees prior to that?
No, because we didn't have anything in our ordinance. This is the first time we've had something in our ordinance.
All right. Well, I'll say this much. They weren't very forgiving on their tree.
Is the request to waive all of the fees?
The way that I read the letter, yes.
I feel they made that more difficult than it needed to be.
We also just had a discussion about, raising the prices of some of our licensing and things like that. So, if we keep our prices the same as they've been for a consistent amount of 7, 8 years, whatever, I think it's reasonable to ask people to pay for them. We keep the fees low, pay for the fees.
Can you tell me what the fee is?
It's $100 per event date.
I could see, maybe, I don't know. I don't think we should waive all of them. I guess that's my opinion.
And it's not a requirement, it's just a request. We don't have to waive all of them. So
Well, I think that all of the negativity and all of the animosity and everything else that's gone along with that whole event needs to end somewhere. And I think it needs to end here. So I would be in favor of waiving the fee.
I also would be in favor of waiving the fee. This is, they're going to use the money for their outreach and and equipment, right? The better equipped they are, the better they can serve us. I agree. Let's put the tree behind us and let's move forward. And I would really like to lobby two of my colleagues here to waive the fee as well.
Can I ask a question first? I understand where you're coming from. Are you guys suggesting that all of the fees be waived? So all $400?
$400, yeah.
Okay. At the beginning of this email communication, it is initiated by Katie, and it's saying, "Can you please write a letter to the board with the request to have the fee waived?" So, was there like a phone call that
Yes,
took place
I received
before
a phone
this?
call directly from the Firemen's Association, and they were asking what the best procedure would be to initiate this request. And so I asked Katie to tell them how that they could go about doing their request, because we don't have a form or anything of that nature. So that is why Katie has this initiation back. It's per the phone conversation I had with the Firemen's Association.
It's just important to have that history.
Yep. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mark Vance,
Yes.
Dan Cheek,
Yes.
Dave Allgood,
Yes.
Sine Hubbard.
Yes.
Motion to approve Class E liquor license for the dates in the packet and waiving fees has passed. Okay, moving on. Motion to discuss and approve Resolution 2026-10, a resolution of the Village of Poplar Grove, Illinois, approving and authorizing the village president to execute an agreement with Linda Ortiz Entertainment for face painting services for Neighbors Night in the amount of $400.
Is she going to bring us? Oh, I'm sorry. Motion to
Motion by Sine,
Second.
second by Mark. Did you have a question, Sine?
Is she going to bring another person?
So, so we had somebody different last time. So
Right,
this is
I
a
remember.
different.
Yep.
I've not requested a second
She was
individual.
here for the
Yes, for the Christmas tree lighting. Yes. And so,
I just know it was so. Can we get a quote for a second? Does she have a second person?
I believe she does.
I'm just concerned we will be. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
And
such
right
a
now
line.
too, based on the time we're that $400 right now is only for a 4-hour allotment.
Okay.
So she'll start at 5 and end at 9.
Okay.
Well, 9:15,
do
whenever the
think-
fireworks go.
That as time goes on and we push this out to the public too, I think some of these things will end up being sponsored. So if we could look into that before, that
Sure.
would be great.
Do you want to hold this over then?
Can we? Yeah.
Sure.
We can hold it over.
Yeah, we just need a motion to do so.
You want to are you making that motion?
Yes, I will motion to hold over the decision on the face painter until our next meeting or whenever we have that information.
We can have it by next meeting. Yeah. So,
We should hold over to next meeting.
Yep.
And then go from there.
I'll
once we have a
second.
great second by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll hold over until the March 11th board meeting and I'll find out.
Can
Okay.
I ask one more question? Sorry. Is she doing strictly face painting
Yes.
or was she okay.
Yeah.
Was there other services that she offered?
Yes, so as you know, like they offer balloon twisting, they
Mhm.
offer different characters. There's like 5 or 6 different items that you
Okay.
can. Yeah, you can have princesses and
Ah, I
balloon twisting things.
see.
So, but
Maybe there's
typically
something crazy.
what happens when that is that there's a period that like for face painting will stop and then balloon twisting would start. It's not necessarily that they run concurrently. If it's a single person, you'd have to have a secondary individual,
Right.
one to do face painting and one to do balloon twisting, for example. So if Sine, is there an interest in balloon twisting or something else?
Can you just, well, I think it might be just good to ask if she has somebody else that can
Okay.
come. And then we can go from there.
Okay, no problem. Any other questions?
No, sorry.
Nope. No, it's okay before we move on. All right, motion to discuss and approve resolution 2026-11, a resolution of the Village of Poplar Grove, Illinois, resolving to accept a quote from the Playhouse Bounce House Rentals LLC for services and inflatable equipment for Neighbors Night in the amount of $4,420.67.
Motion to discuss, approve resolution 2026-11.
Motion by Mark,
Second.
second by Sine. All right, so we had kind of a list of what we've used in the past. The only addition to this is the trackless train, which they had brought in the back of one of their trucks because they had just gotten it last year. And I said, ooh, I think that would be really fun to have. So we've included it in this quote. Do you see anything that you don't believe is enough or you'd like extra?
Our setup last year was really nice. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody recall what the related expenses were last year?
For the same setup. I think she said it's the same except
It's
for
the
the
same
addition of the
except for
train. Yeah,
It's the same, less the train.
Yeah.
correct.
So the train is an additional $1,800.
Correct. Any other questions? Comments, concerns? Mr. Alger, do you have any more questions, concerns? Any more questions or concerns, sir? Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Dave Allgood,
Yes.
Sine Hubbard,
Yes.
Mark Vance,
Yes.
Dan Cheek.
Yes.
Resolution 2026-11 passes. Okay. Motion to discuss and approve RPM GJ service contract for Neighbors Night in the amount of $700.
Motion to approve RPM and the amount of $700.
Motion by Sine,
Second.
second by Dan. I just want to preface, after working with our legal counsel, they indicated that for items of this nature that are smaller than what our purchasing policy is, and they've been budgeted, that we don't necessarily have to do resolutions for them. We can just get board consensus to move ahead, which then obviously saves legal time, right? So that's why this one does not have a resolution. I was told that after the first two had been done when my discussions with Roxanne. So just wanted to let the board know that. Any questions on the DJ?
Nope.
I thought that they did a really good job last year. We're gonna bring some additional speakers this year too, so that we can disseminate the sound a little bit better throughout the space. Barring no other questions, do we have a roll call, please?
Dan Cheek,
Yes.
Sine Hubbard,
Yes.
Dave Allgood,
Yes.
Mark Vance.
Yes.
Great, contract for RPM passes. Okay. Do we have a motion to discuss the petty cash policy?
Move to discuss petty cash policy.
Motion by Dan,
Second.
second by Sine. All right, Carrie, you want to start off with this one?
So as collector, obviously involved in all accounts receivable, and we don't have a petty cash policy. We had one kind of started back when Diana was still here. It never got formally passed and it was outdated. So I went to some other municipalities, got theirs, and then worked with front office staff, and this is what we came up with.
The only thing I wanted to add, and it's in here, but it just needs to be, I think, expanded. And I was talking to legal a little bit, because I had an opportunity to review, is that we just need to add some additional language on when if and when there would to be some sort of a shortage, what happens and who checks those things. That it doesn't specify like the other policy that we have. So I think that's an area that we just need to add some additional language for. Other than that, I didn't see a whole lot else that I thought needed expansion.
So you mean adding something to show like a supervisor helping reconcile a shortage or accounting for that?
Right, it just needs to have
Yeah.
some language in there for that. Any other questions or concerns? Okay.
So this will come back before you in a form of resolution.
Yep.
Next month.
Okay. And if for some reason, you know, you review it again and you think of something, please let us know. All right. Let's go on and have a motion to discuss the cash drawer policy.
Move to discuss cash drawer policy.
Motion by Dan,
Second.
second by Mark. All right, one more time, Miss Carrie.
Okay. So cash drawer is a little different than our petty cash. So petty cash is for when we have, you know, a shortage for, you know, postage, or we need to, the county doesn't always accept check or credit cards. So when we need to run down and review documents, we got to take cash down there for them. Cash drawer is where you put all the permitting, all the day in, day outs.
Right.
Again, there was no policy here. It was just kind of like, this is what we've done for 10 years, and it's been passed down by staff members. So it's just putting it into a formal policy on what they do every day, what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing, type stuff. Any questions?
No, pretty much straightforward. It's kind of like a cashier's drawer.
Yeah.
That's how we're
Yeah.
treating it. So it gets basically, you know, reconciled each day. There's double signatures on it. You know, this one does have a little bit more of an expansion such that there would be a shortage. How does that get resolved and investigated, and who it gets reported to? So that way then we just know that there's double accountability on all transactions for the day, basically. It's just good policy. Any other questions or concerns, or is there anything that we think is missing or needs to be added?
Is this, is the cash drawer closed at the end of business each day?
Yeah.
And then counted? Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
gotta be put in the bag.
Yeah, you're basically counting your drawer twice a day. You open it with a set, so you know exactly how much you open with, and you're closing it at the end
That's
of the
the
day.
200 float.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, it has a starting balance of
Okay.
$200 every day. Yep. So you can make change, basically. Any other questions or concerns? Okay, barring none, then this will also come back with a resolution at some point. All right, we're on a roll for discussion. Let's get some more policies. What do you say? How about a motion to discuss water and sewer payment plan policy?
Move to discuss water and sewer payment plan policy.
Motion by Dan,
Second.
second by Mark. Thank you. All right, so like this outline says in the memo, what I have come to observe is our courtesy of offering, you know, payment arrangements to residents has unfortunately been abused by our residents. And so this is just designed to help provide guidance as to when we would offer said payment plan, what the terms of those payment plans are, what the eligibility is for those payment plans, how they're executed, and then what happens such that there should be a level of default on them. You know, our goal is always to try to help our residents be current as much as possible on these outstanding bills. And so I don't want residents to think that my intention is not to be empathetic and helpful, because that's not what the intention is here. But we also want to make sure that there's not abuse and there's oversight into the program, right? Talking with Laura and legal counsel, they are recommending that we put much, not necessarily all of the policy, but much of this policy actually into the ordinance. And update the ordinance so that it's clear. And Laura, if you want to elaborate more on that, that would be great.
Yes. What you have here is a policy that outlines what the procedure will be when someone is in the arrears with their payments. And there are some rules that we have to follow with statutory guidelines, with notice requirements and timelines. And this adheres to all of the statutory requirements. The main thing is that when you are creating what will be the laws of your village, as in the amount past due that you're going to allow someone to be before the water is going to be shut off, and then what they can do to then avoid shut off payment agreements. You want to codify that. That puts it in your official rules, in your official laws for the village. So that's what we would advise moving forward, that these policies, not necessarily the administrative part, that doesn't need to be codified, but we would put more of these requirements that would directly affect your residents into your code.
Like the table and the parameters around that.
Yes.
That makes sense. Can I ask how we will keep track of this? Is there something in our system where we can, okay.
Yeah, BSNA has the capability of tracking all the payment plans. And then the nice thing about BSNA too, now that we've upgraded to the cloud, it also has some new features that we're learning to maximize, which is workflows, where these workflows can, if an email is provided, we can actually send reminders to people and things of that nature. So
Awesome.
I think for the other part of our of discussion tonight is to make sure that we go over, you know, the delinquent amounts, what the board thinks about those numbers. You know, so I guess in the first section, installment payment criteria and qualifications, I think that area is highly critical because it carries over into the next portion of the installment payment plan execution requirements. And so, you know, what do we think the board's comfortable with a minimum delinquent balance before you're willing to offer a payment plan? We internally at staff discussed it and felt that $350 was a reasonable number without being too low. And then you're offering payment plans all the time versus making it, you know, so high that it's you don't want those balances to get that high. You know, I mean, obviously the intention of the payment plan is to help people who are in the rears find a way to become current and stay current, versus just using it as a methodology to avoid penalties because their payments schedule doesn't line up with our payment schedule, which has been some of the abuse that we've seen in the past.
Yes, and I think you may have mentioned this, but when they enter into a payment agreement, the penalty is
It states it. And
yes, it is. It's definitely in the memo in
Yeah.
the policy that the penalty is temporarily suspended. It's temporarily suspended because should they default on the payment agreement, then those penalties can come back and you can assess them, and you can reinstate the penalties moving forward. Again, it's not to punish. You guys don't want to turn water off, but you also want to you want to make an offer to your residents when their balance is low enough that they can get ahead and they can get this paid down to avoid the shutoff.
so the other question then would be like, so the second criteria is that account should have a zero defaulted installment payment plan in the past 12 consecutive months. So you have to go at least 12 months without right now having an initial payment plan that you've defaulted on. So the second, the number 3 is one that Laura and I had some discussion on earlier today, in reference to there's a subset of residents that will automatically not be eligible because they've had a single default. So in efforts to provide another method to help them come current, then our suggestion was, well, let's look a little bit longer in history to see, well, maybe in the last 12 you had a mistake, you missed something for whatever had it, but overall in the last 24 months, you've had a much better record, so we can go ahead and extend that payment plan option to you. So we had suggested some additional language here so that once that review is done, what happens? So we as a board should decide how much of, you know, penalties or late payments or default are you comfortable with within a 24-month period and still allowing a resident who's in the rears an opportunity to have a payment plan to try to come current?
So we're doing a 2-year span on their water bills. I'm hearing this right. And you're looking for how many times, if they were on a payment plan, how many delinquencies?
It's so in the past, like when we've looked at past behaviors, we look at two things. We typically look at, has a payment plan in the past been extended to you, and have you defaulted on that payment plan? And if so, how many times have you defaulted? The second one is that how many times have you been late on just your normal payments, right? So we look at both of those things.
Okay, I got you.
So this is only in the instance that you don't meet number 2, right? Which is you have 0 defaulted installment payment plans in a 12-month span. So if you do, this is the secondary way that we can potentially offer that to you.
Like an overview, of
Yeah.
propensity to pay. Type
Right.
Of, yeah.
So that's what you're looking at. So we just have
Yeah,
to
like a little credit score. You're doing some back.
yeah, kind of. You're looking for that.
Right. And if I could, this is you start with someone who's paying every month on time. They've missed 2 months of payment. Their delinquent amount gets over $350, so they're offered a payment plan. They enter into a payment plan, payment agreement with the village, and then they default on that. So we're already, a few payments missed at this point throughout someone's billing history. Initially, the missed payments on their regular bill, and then now the defaulted payment agreement payments. It's when that happens, that first one, that then we'll look back past that the 12 months into the 24 months. See, are you just in a really hard time right now, or is this chronic? And then make a decision to go.
Then you'll
from there.
base that on the ability for them to get a payment plan. Like if this is chronic, no payment plan.
Yes, that's
right.
what's
Based
that's
based on
the
what we're asking for.
discussion-
Yeah.
yes. That's what the discussion is. Do you want to, at that point, then not offer a payment agreement to them, require that they pay their balance in full, or their service will be shut off?
I mean, in your memo that you'd sent,
Mhm.
I mean, you said it was abused. I mean, how badly is it abused,
So,
I guess?
so we have had residents who in a 12-month span were offered a payment plan 10 times and defaulted 6. I mean,
Yeah, that's there's only 12 months in a year.
right, right. I mean, so, and that's unfortunately, it's been a chronic issue where in the past, payment plans, because there really was no guidelines around them, they were being extended, as ways for individual who were, like they'd be offered to somebody who has an outstanding balance of $63, for example, and or they were current until the 20th of the month, and then after the 20th, their 10% penalty, but they can't pay until the 25th. So they would call and say, I need a payment plan, which you're not even in the rears before the 20th, but I'm going to make my payment on the 25th so that they would avoid the penalty.
Yeah.
And that would happen every single month. So I don't have an exact number, but if I went
I
back and
got
did an
you.
analysis,
It's-
I'm afraid it would be a tad bit more enlightening than you'd want it to be. So
It's a courtesy, it's interest free. It's just,
yeah, we do it
it's
as a
something we
courtesy, and we
should
want
just-
people to try to be current. So, but we just need to put some
and I
parameters.
think these are good, in my opinion,
know?
they seem reasonable parameters.
Yeah. So the only one that we need to say is like, in that number 3, if we decide to offer, a way that they can still be on a payment plan if they've had a default, is there a number? Are we comfortable with defaults? And a
Which
late
one is
payment history, number 3.
A3?
So A3.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We just have to put another number in there. Is it, if you look in 24 months and you have, no more than 2 defaults and you've been late no more than 2 times, right? Like whatever that number combination is, we just need to put that in there. And that provides very clear guidance for staff, and it's really clear guidance for residents. So it protects all of us in the process.
I would say as far as late over a 24-month span, I think 2 a year would be feasible. That's just my opinion.
So then you're saying no more than 4 in a 24
Yeah.
month period. And then in terms of if you've had a payment plan extended to you, and if you've defaulted, how many are you comfortable with?
Faults? Anyone?
I mean, and the answer could be none. I mean, the answer could be that maybe we don't like this provision, and that's okay. That's why we're discussing it.
You're saying a default on a payment plan?
Yeah. So there's 2 parts. You have your payment plan side that you default on, and then you have your late side when we review the history.
That's,
I'd say the default would have more weight to me than late.
I totally agree with that.
Okay.
If they are accumulating a balance, though, can they adjust their term length? Like, you know what I'm saying? If they get on a payment plan and then it's like, oh, I'm gonna actually be behind an additional amount of money, can they change their term length to?
We've never done that in application. It's not that we couldn't. I tried to design a table that those payments would be reasonable, right? Because obviously we have a handful that are really high right now, and so. But I don't know. I mean, it's really up to how long the board is comfortable carrying those terms. If you're comfortable carrying terms for 350 for 6 months.
I'm only no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying if they have an additional, December water bill is super high, and that brings their overall balance up, that's not the amount that's on the payment plan, but now they have to accommodate for that in addition to what's on the payment plan. Can we in turn, say, all right, instead of your $500 3-month term, we will move you to the 6-month term because you're not delinquent balance, but overall balance, just to help them.
So I think the short answer, if I understand correctly, would be yes, but in the sense that ultimately what you're doing then is per their request, and because they haven't defaulted, then you're basically you're both mutually agreeing that you're ending one payment plan, and then you're going to offer them a new one.
Yes,
And I think that that's perfectly fine.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was something we could accommodate before, because I think that would play a role in how many we allow, right, to be late and delinquent. Because if we're accommodating for them to have a higher balance, then we should say, hey, we've, allowed this amount, you get to default once, and that's, you had your chance.
I like your idea there with the number for 1 default. Cause like I said, I think that carries a lot more weight than being late.
Right.
So a default on a payment plan, that means we had an agreement and we didn't make that agreement, right? So I would say my opinion would be 1 default within the 24 months.
what about the late
The late, I think with your idea of going with 2.
2 a year and the
2
1
a year,
default?
yeah, and 1 default.
What is late? Does that mean they are,
That means that the bill was due the 20th and it doesn't get paid until after the 20th of the month.
and okay, so is the late fee instituted at that
Yep,
point?
on the 21st.
So
I don't
I
know.
think what we're saying is two late payments in 12 months, or 4 in 24 months, and then 1 delinquent of a payment plan, right?
So I have a different opinion. I feel like if they're late, but they're still paying it, I don't know. I feel like we should be more lenient on
Okay.
that.
I could be talked into that.
I don't know.
Well, and that's from what I understand, that's just, like I said earlier, based as a credit score. So if they need a payment plan,
Right.
like they're just looking at, okay, you've been late 6 times. over the last 24 months. That's starting to get into the chronic issue. So I think what they're trying, the reason I said 2 a year is to set a number, you know, because if they abuse that aspect of it as well, who's to say they're not going to abuse anything else? So I think we got to put a guideline on the amount of times you can be late in the year, because even if you're paying your penalties and you're still paying them on time, you are still adding, you know, staff has to now go through work as well. You know, adding time on theirs, which is, you know, time is money. I think there has to be some guidelines set with even late fees as well. If 4 is too many, you know, we can drop it, but I think that's 2 a year seems like a good number to
Two
keep
a
you on
year,
your toes.
I think 2 a year would roughly break down to 20%.
Yeah, 16.6. I was just doing the math.
Yeah. So
I mean, do you want to bring that number up?
That would be my thought. Because sometimes, you know, you get into a rut and you're just trying to keep up.
right.
And then eventually you decide, okay, I need help. Please put me on a payment plan.
So three a year will put you at about 25% of your payments to be late.
That would be 6 in a 24-month, right?
Mhm.
So
4 is at 33.3%. So if you do 4 a year, that's 8 in 24 month. I'm just trying to throw out the statistics because sometimes we say 1, 2, and
right.
that doesn't seem like a lot, but when you have only 12 potential times to pay, you know, the percentage can sometimes put that in a little bit of a
I think
different perspective.
33%.
You know, I feel comfortable with that number, right? 6 in a 24-month period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think if we push into the 4, that's going to be like 33% of
Yeah.
of a calendar year, and I think that's definitely encroaching on chronic.
Okay, so we're at 1 default and six late basically
In 24 months.
in 24 months.
Okay.
Okay.
And just to be clear, once someone is late and they have that delinquent amount in excess of 350, correct me if I am wrong on this, then it's the payment plan isn't something the village is offering. The resident is sent a shut-off notice, and it's them reaching out to the village asking for the payment plan. The notice might have a statement saying, reach out a payment if you'd like to enter into a payment plan.
So normally,
decision been
normally what happens is that we produce we get one of 2 ways. One, somebody knows that they're behind, right? And they'll call and they're going to try to figure out what to do. So they'll ask, what can I do? And then we offer those. The other time is sometimes when it's shut off day, right? And we've already given notice because on the 21st, anyone who's late and penalties are assessed, they're automatically sent an NOV, a notice, right, that they're behind. Then we wait for the 10 days that were required. And so we have shut off day. Shut-offs come and go. And a lot of times what will happen is when shut-off day happens and they get their water turned off, we get phone calls and then we're like, well, this is how far you are in the rears. You know, what do we do? Right. And so then we try to work with people to help them get current in some way, shape, or form. So
just so you guys were aware, that the notice of shut off goes out and then a payment agreement could be entered into at that point. But if they don't enter into a payment agreement,
then the water gets turned
then
up.
service to
Yeah.
the home gets shut off.
Yep.
So I don't really want to make this any more clouded or confusing. But as we're changing this ordinance and making these modifications, which is going to complicate the ordinance a little bit more than what it is now, are we going to create a plain language version of this that the average resident can read and understand versus trying to dig through the ordinance to try to figure out what the deal is? You know, I mean,
Well, essentially
even
the
federal
policy would
government's
be-
gotten to the point where they write plain language of some regulation now because it needs to be simplified so it can be digested.
Sure, but I mean, this policy could serve that. I mean, you're doing 2 things. This policy can still stand, which I think is in pretty clean English, right? And then you have the ordinance version of the parts that have to be codified so that it sets the rules for the village. So, I mean, unless you don't believe that this document is clear enough to understand.
Okay, so now my next question would be, there are municipalities that hold the property owner liable for the water service, unpaid water service, if it's being used for income. Are we one of those municipalities that's going to be holding the property owner responsible? If
So-
somebody defaults and then decides to move to Crystal Lake or,
Yeah,
you know,
so,
Kentucky?
so
We already
the,
do.
yes, our water and sewer bills always stay what we call with the land. Now, if a landlord has a renter in, we notify both parties that they're behind in their payments. And as one of the things that are on here, in number 1, it says renters applying for installment payment plans must have landlord or landowner approval. And we have that. We call the landlord and say, what do you want to do? Right. And sometimes they'll say, nope, they're bad. They'll turn it off, collect it all, or they'll say, sure, that's not a problem. And so that's always been the case.
All right, and so the other aspect of that is you're entering into a payment agreement with an individual that doesn't own the property, and the third party is not made part of that agreement. So you'd be holding the property owner, the third party, responsible for an agreement that somebody else made. Is that correct?
Sure.
Okay, so before you're asking the exact right questions. I was going to comment exactly on this topic because you're right. The property owner is held responsible for this bill. They would have to sign any payment agreement because they have to approve it.
And that was where I was heading. So you're entering into what would be considered a legal binding agreement, a contract
Yes.
for payment for services rendered. And yet there would be another party that could also be incidentally held responsible because they are the property owner. So,
Yes, that's why the property owner must they must sign the agreement as well. And they would be made aware, if they weren't already, that delinquent bills on your water bill can become a lien on the property. And so that's why they're given all the notice that the tenant is given in a renter situation. That's why we would require them to sign the agreement. And they would be notified of any shut off, any delinquent notice, and any intent to record a lien on the
and under
property.
the agreement, we would also be required to notify both parties of a delinquency.
Yep.
Yes, I believe we already are
Okay.
required to notify both parties.
I just don't want to see us not cross all the Ts and dot all the Is and then have a third party come in here with, you know, an attorney that's going to cost him 5 times what the water bill is just to prove a point.
Absolutely. That's why their signature would be on the agreement.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That's all I have.
Okay, we'll add what we need to add and we'll bring it back with a resolution. Oh, okay,
we can-
highlighted, yeah,
We
it'll,
can approve the policy with a resolution, but
Yeah, the
we'll
codified
also present
section.
an ordinance to codify the portions we need to do.
but before we leave the water world, let's have a motion to discuss water and sewer shut-off ordinance changes.
Motion to discuss water sewer shut off ordinance changes.
Motion by Dan,
Second.
second by Dave. So while we're still there in the world of water, and Laura will jump in here on this, but because we had a nice little conversation about it earlier today. So I'm curious to see if you found anything after our discussion. So in the memo that I sent, and I put a copy of the updated ordinance on the diocese, so that you could see it. The issue that we have is we have times when water services, meet the criteria for termination of service. But for whatever reason, we cannot access the B box in the cases where we have to use the B box for termination of service. And so the current ordinance says if the B box is damaged, such that the water services are able to be shut off, the shut off fee will still be imposed. I had proposed that we change it to inaccessible because, for example, we have bee boxes that are hiding under landscape elements that you cannot get to it. We have times when there's 10 inches of snow on the ground and you can't get to the bee box. Or for what other reasons, or we've had it where bee box items are frozen and you can't turn the bee box to turn the water off. So for whatever reason, you can't do the termination of service. We're still asking that we can still impose this fee as a penalty for that. Now I know Laura, you and I had a discussion about that, so please feel free to chime in because I'm curious what your research showed after that discussion.
So the research about imposing a shut-off fee without shutting the water off, I have not come to a conclusion on that yet.
Okay.
Should we label it more of an administrative fee to be a little cleaner so it's clear that the water was not shut off, but administrative costs were expended in this for this account? So I don't have an answer for you on that matter. But that the change from damage to inaccessible makes sense. It broadens your authority to impose a fee for attempting to turn the water off at the property.
And to be clear, because I know in Laura and I's discussion, we only attempt to do water termination on water termination day, which is once a month. So the only other time that termination would ever be executed is at such time that a payment plan was in default and another notice had gone out and therefore water could be terminated. So you're not doing it as a per attempt scenario where every time they try to turn off the water and they can't, you're imposing a fee. It's one time, just like a normal shut off day. The second part of this memo is, basically extreme weather conditions, right? We've seen it thus far where, we had in January, I believe, was it January, David? It was January, where shut off day, the warmest day of that week, which they still went out, but like it was well below zero with wind chills. And so I'm not sure how we feel about turning off people's water, such when it's 20 below zero with the wind, or on the flip side of that, when it's over 90, how do we feel about turning people's water off? And so that's why I've posed those questions for our discussion.
So I'm trying to wrap my brain around this a little bit. So you have two different conditions based on a defect. You have a defect where the property owner has no control, i.e. snowplow, ding the bee box, and now you can't.
No, it's so basically what the situation is with bee boxes and being inaccessible or damaged is typically, if a bee box is bent or chock full of mud, or there's various elements. The point of this from a public works perspective, at some point we are going to make that repair to make that bee box accessible. However, in the interest of shutting the water off, most of the time those repairs aren't going to be able to happen on that shut off day. If we come across a situation where something is in need of repair or replacement, or a cap breaks off, or the actual corp snaps or something of that nature.
Sure. We'll call those natural occurrences because they naturally happen.
Right.
All right. So now how about unnatural occurrences such as deliberate obstruction?
Like the landscaping?
So does deliberate obstruction to stop water service shut off from happening, does that have any subsequent consequences?
I would say it'd be a very similar situation. That being said, outside of landscaping issues, we
Fencing?
don't.
Fencing?
Fencing, I think it's a different beast. Rarely do we run into that. I think we've had 3 times since I've been here. As far as deliberate damaging the B box itself by the homeowner, I have not seen that since I've been here.
We've had one.
Obviously, it's something that can happen, but typically the deliberate side of that would be excessive landscaping on or around the B box.
Right, and that's what I say, so, you know,
I would treat it the same as a damaged or inaccessible from a natural occurrence at that point.
right, but if it was a deliberate obstruction, now we're expending resources at our expense to restore the situation so that it can be accessible.
Well, Laura did pose.
The one thing with that, I would say it would be extremely difficult on the village's half to prove that something was done deliberately. There's a level of deny. I didn't know my B box was there. So I guess, is that a road we want to go down with attempting to prove that something would be deliberate?
Yeah, and the other thing with that too, when Laura and I talked about it, the other option she had posed was in a situation like that, you, instead of implementing the, water service termination fee, is that you would proceed down your natural notice of violation process, and work it that way. So that has a different penalty structure such that you're not in compliance. And then you would make the homeowner responsible for making that B box accessible in that condition. I had some concerns about, that process, because then you have to decide when that's deployed and when it's not. In a case of it being inaccessible because there happens to be, a foot of snow on it, I don't think that that's the right call to do a notice of violation, to have it shoveled out, if you will, just to have the water turned off.
Well, no, I understand that, but I am aware of a couple of cases where somebody literally used a piece of equipment and drove over a bee box so that it could not be functioned properly.
Well, and then you're playing into the game too. It's like even with landscaping, was it by the prior owner? And they know the new owner doesn't know that, or like you just said, purposely damaging, sold the house, new guy doesn't know. There's a lot of variables to this. I mean, a lot.
But then, like Christy said, it becomes a code violation, right? Like,
Yes.
so
Can
then we
be.
pursue that avenue. So
Yeah, I think as far as a intentionally damaged bee box, there's other routes that would be a little cleaner that we could take rather than trying to improve it during a shut-off process.
It would then likely be, we would need to prove it during an administrative hearing process. In which case the homeowner would receive notice to come to the hearing. They would be told what the violation is, that the B box is inaccessible. So they have some time to make that B box accessible, whether they knew it was there or not when they moved in. Now they've been told, now they need to make it accessible.
On that note, we've had occurrence with a house landscaping berm on top of a bee box. We were 99.99% sure that's where the location was. Notified the homeowner. Homeowner agreed that it was most likely in that location. He had never seen it anywhere else in his yard. He would take care of the berm, because I basically told him, we have to get access to this, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to kind of re-landscape your area rather than us come in with and dig it up. A year went by. He did not do that. And what we did in this scenario, rather than go dig it, we put in a different style meter where we could operate that from a truck.
Yeah, which is the other option in some cases, but those meters are expensive for us to do that.
About $200 more than a normal meter.
Yeah,
That's a smart meter.
yeah.
Okay.
All our meters at this point are smart meters, but those are another
Super smart.
level. Yeah.
Yeah,
You drive by with a Bluetooth in it?
yeah, and they're
Turn
yeah.
it off, but not even get out of the
So just to come back to where we are on this discussion, where are we thinking? First of all, do we like the word inaccessible?
Yes.
Okay. And then the second thing is that, do we still want the fee to be imposed if you were supposed to be turned off and we couldn't because it was inaccessible? That's the second part of that question.
Well, we shut off fee is to cover expenses, correct? Staff, Public Works, they're still doing the work. Staff did their end. Public Works is still going out to try to discover that it can't be done. So you're still putting the people in motion to do the process. You're still incurring cost.
I actually like Laura's idea a lot about an administrative fee in lieu of the shut off fee at
Yeah,
that point,
because, I mean,
because I do see where a shut off fee for water that's not shut off, hard to impose that.
That could be a little sticky in some venues as to, well, why are you charging a shut off fee when you didn't shut it off?
And we've had that, where we'll be on the premises attempting to shut a water off, and whether we can't get it or someone calls, and then they question, well, they didn't shut me off. Why am I being imposed that fee? But I think the administrative fee for that would work, where we could still cover my staff's time, still cover Katie and Renee's time on it, and it's essentially the same fee, different word.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. It's
Okay,
just
so
different wording.
then with this, or double correct me, then that ordinance change then would be in the event that the B box is inaccessible, such that water services are unable to be shut off, then we should cross out the shut off fee. It should say then an administrative fee will be imposed. Then the other question I have of that is it the same cost as the water shut off, or is it at a reduced rate?
I think it should be.
I'm kind of on the fence with that. I say if you get shut off, you're going to get the fee for the shut off, then you got to pay a fee to get it turned back on again, correct?
Yep.
And if they don't shut it off, you're going to get an administrative fee for
Then it would be half that, which is
that.
$45
Would be
by
half of it,
ordinance
but
right
you're
now.
not performing the second half of that.
So then that's right now, the ordinance says 45.
Yeah, I could understand that.
So I would say, yeah, you're going to get them at the time of shut off, and you're going to get them again at the time of the reinstatement of the service. But if you can't shut it off, and it's not something that they had control over, I don't believe that they should have to pay the reinstatement fee, but they should still be liable for an equitable and equal and equitable comparison to what the shut off fee would be in an administrative fee.
Okay, so half of that it's $45.
Okay, so, and I'm not familiar with the fees. So it's $90 to shut off,
It's 110.
110 to shut off.
But if you look later on in the ordinance, it specifies for if you call and request your water to be shut off, just like shut off, it's 45. I mean, you can verify that in the ordinance, but I'm almost 100% sure that's what it says.
Okay. Well,
It doesn't have to be 45, but I'm just saying. Go ahead, David.
On that note, Dave, if it is inaccessible and we are having to come back to repair, does that administrative fee need to cover a portion of that?
Well, I guess the next question would be, what if there was no shut off warranted at all for anything? It was a simple issue with a B box and you had to replace it. Would you charge the property owner a fee for that?
Like when I ran over my B box with the lawnmower and you had to come out and fix it, would you?
We should have charged you, yes.
So there you go.
No, typically, if we would not. For a B box that we are going out and repairing for known issue outside of a shut off, that's maintenance.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So,
I mean, at the end of the
I guess once you get past the shut off situation, you're back in normal service, but there's an issue there. Now it becomes a maintenance function, not
Yeah.
a portion or part of the shut off.
That's correct. And we do own the B box as the village.
Right, so
That's point of
so-
ownership of the waters.
I just want to try to, make sure that we're being reasonable. There's nothing fair in fines and fees. I mean, that's just the way it is. The life is not fair. But there has to be a point where you have to be reasonable.
Yes, I think you can remain reasonable by keeping the fines and fees tied to the actual costs of the village, and that's how I think you stay reasonable. One addition that we could do, I didn't bring this up earlier, is to add that at the village's discretion that the fees can be waived if the village determines in its sole discretion that it's an act of God that this B box isn't accessible.
I
So
was
if
just
it's
gonna say that.
no, it's not anything that, so it's not that we have to prove that the homeowner obstructed the B box. It's that if the village determines this is an act of God, and that's used, that's very defined in statute of wind damage, snow damage, hail, that then the village would then have to maintain, it would just be deemed normal maintenance. Then the village can waive the fees in their own discretion.
With that though, if we're going back to the intent to shut off, we would still want to impose those fees because that B box we're going there with the intent to shut off.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So are we going there with the intent for maintenance? Are we going there for the intent of a shut off? So the intent is what makes or breaks that scenario. My point was, if you don't effectively shut off, if you effectively can't do a shut off, you do an administrative fee, and then you're basically waiving the reinstatement because there was no shut off. And then what are you doing? Where does the responsibility lie on the inaccessibility? So that's why I say that's where you go. That's where you go. Where the reasonable part has to start coming in.
Right. Yeah, we haven't talked about weather yet. We're still talking about fees.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, it's a good conversation to have. I mean, that's how we make good policy, guys, is having a good discussion.
Honestly, I don't think that anybody should ever have to go without water, but unfortunately, it happens.
It does.
So we were just talking about then the extreme weather conditions.
Wouldn't that fall under the act of God?
But are we moving to discuss extreme weather and shutting water off or not when the B box?
Oh, okay, temperature, yeah, the 90, and okay, I got you now.
Yeah, it's
You jumped subjects on me.
I did to some degree, right? So
Well,
the weather in terms of, are we in those times, then we're basically postponing the ability to do turnoffs and shutoffs of termination of water. And so
There we could establish a high and a low. The low would be based on the safety and well-being of the public works personnel who have to be out in the cold shutting it off. And the high would have to be based upon the health, welfare, and safety of the residents, their children, and their animals.
hence the 10 degrees and 90 degrees.
Yeah, I think those are exactly where Christy and I came up with those two numbers.
What was it? What was the low one?
It was below 10 degrees and then the
Above
high
90.
above 90.
I would be agreeable with that. The public works is comfortable shutting off water at 10 degrees.
I mean, they're not gonna be mad at you if you go higher, but yes, we're good at 10 degrees.
And I think that that's reasonable. And I think that 90 degrees is reasonable. I think, if we're going to do a shut off at 89 degrees and the following day is going to be 95, that's when we really need to start thinking about what we're doing.
And we do. I mean, we looked at weather you know, in January, and we're not gonna have them out there.
I understand that,
Yeah.
I'd like to say, again, I just want to use that one word. We have to be reasonable.
So the other part of the question then is that even in such, the intent was to be able to turn off. Are there any fees imposed or not?
I think the same administrative fee
Okay.
that would be opposed at any other point in time should be opposed. So if we cannot shut off because of an inaccessibility, below 10 degrees is inaccessible, and above 90 degrees would be inaccessible. These would all be terms of inaccessibility to me.
Okay.
Make it all uniform.
And are we still at the administrative fee of 45, or are we at some other number?
I think it should be the same across the board.
That's what the other termination service in B on the ordinance specifies.
Yeah,
6244B says $45.
Right. There's no sense in reinventing the wheel. It should
I
be
agree.
the same as it was all the way across the board for everything.
Any
So
other-
it was 90 on and off? I thought it was 110.
It is 110 in the actual above it. When you go to 6-2-4-4A, it says the shutoff fee is 110. But in 6-2-4-4B, other termination of service, it's if a water and sewer customer in good standing, or in the case of emergency, the owner and said property may request by application a turn on or off service for a fee of $45 each.
But that's good standings. If they're going to shut their water off, they're not in good standings. So
You
if
could
it's at
argue.
110 for that, then it should be 55, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the half math.
So 55 for the administrative fee. By my math.
Dave,
I'll
say?
agree with your man.
It's not new math.
I say I'm not gonna quibble with you over the number. I just think the number needs to be a number.
Yep.
And it needs to be the same number applied equally across the board for all conditions.
Okay.
It's gonna take a lot of the voodoo and the magic and all this out of it so that it's clear and understandable.
The last point on this memo is just it's a valid medical hardship, negating the ability to terminate a water service, which you could argue would be another inaccessible scenario.
I would definitely agree with that. And quite honestly, if there is a medical situation going on, depriving somebody of water while they're already in a situation,
Agreed.
that to me is just, I don't want to
there's
use the word
nothing in the ordinance,
inhumane, but
right?
it's disrespectful.
Yes, there is statutory protection for the resident should they reach out and say, water service to this property, someone's life is dependent on it, then yes, then we are barred from turning that water off. But they do need to let us know.
But they say life. And I mean, so at what
Yes.
point do you want to say that the shutting off the water could not necessarily be a life or death issue? And I hate using the word death, but could enhance or prolong a medical condition, which then to me would be, basically inflicting harm.
Yes, there is a statute on it. I have a different statute pulled up right now, but I'll look at that language. I'll make sure that that's put in,
Okay.
and we can have that answer for you next time. But before we're done, I do want to get direction on one other thing. When we were talking just about the point above with the weather conditions below 10 degrees or over 90 degrees, we can add, to give you guys some discretion, we can add a statement that should the village determine that going out in the weather would, I don't think we, sure, and I don't think I want to use the extreme language of endanger the life, but would
Be
endanger
detrimental.
the welfare potentially.
Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
be
hazardous.
Village employees,
Yeah.
then the village holds that discretion to
Yeah.
not.
Potential of
Yeah, I think
potential
that's
physical
good.
harm.
Yeah, I think that that's
Lightning
Good
That
length.
gives you that
Yeah.
discretion also if it's 89 degrees. Is that too hot today?
It's-
Feel the weather for today and see.
Right, 89 degrees today, 91 tomorrow. We're going to turn it off today because it's below 90. And you're going to have to wait a day or two to get turned back on again because your bank's closed and you can't go get no money.
And there are, and I'll bring, I'll include everything in the ordinance. There's statutory language on, you have to turn off at a certain time of day where if they were to bring their payment, their bill.
And we don't ever shut off on a Friday.
We
Right,
can't.
you can't
Yeah.
do it on certain
Yeah.
days after certain times. They
Yeah.
have to, after shut off, the resident has to have the ability to turn it back on that day.
Yep.
Right.
So, any other questions? Anything else, Laura?
No.
Okay. Anything else?
Why are you looking at me?
Because you have a lot to say sometimes. Just double checking.
Well, yeah,
All
but at least I
right.
wasn't being mean this time.
Nope, that's great. Good to the village, folks. So BSNA payments live March the 2nd. That is next Monday. For those of you who use online payments such as Point and Pay, there will be a link out there for you to sign up for the BSNA payments. If you use it through your bank or you make a check or you go to the bank and make a physical payment, that will not change for you. Only if you're using Point and Pay currently to pay your online bill. Budget workshop, March 4th, 2026 at 6 p.m. Board of Trustees meeting, March 11th at 7 p.m. March 25th is the second board meeting of the month. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Dave.
Second.
I'm going to give that to Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned at 8:22 p.m. Thank you, guys. Good discussion.
That's okay. I've actually been here before you. I think they're just nice.
Signed up for. Is that changing that?
Yeah, the one you gotta log into, that's
Yeah.
the link from, yeah, everything's changed.
You can keep it. You probably got the same one I did.
No, there should be, Christie, there's gonna be a link on the website.
Yeah.
and
No.
we've sent it out in
It was in the water bill too, there's an info,
Oh, yeah.
even if you get electronic water bill.
We gotta, we can put it up tomorrow, she said?
Yeah, it's early, but
Yes, we can put it on the
Can
tomorrow.
I use the website with a credit card or whatever?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
that's point.
that's point,
So
now it'll be a new,
It wouldn't be if like if you went to your bank and just told your bank that you're gonna.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's if you go through the village website.
I do.
That's point.